Hello and welcome back to MindSpanse. I'm Craig, and I want to thank you for taking some time with me today. I am going to talk about consciousness. It's something that I've thought about for such a long time. Like, what is consciousness? How do you define consciousness? Apparently, a lot of people have a very, very hard time doing that. But we're going to spend a little time today just talking about it. I'll share some of my thoughts and love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And talk about that, the evolution of consciousness. What does that mean? But first, we got to take a big stretch all the way up to the sky. Big deep breath. Release shoulders and jaw. I'm taping from my office today. It's snowing. It's pretty cool. You may hear bashes, which is the ice falling on my window, but hopefully we'll be spared that during this video. But anyway, so consciousness. So if you try to think about consciousness using the word think, of course, all of a sudden everything's a problem. Because consciousness is the definition is sort of like the sense of I, right? But then if you look at sort of a more Zen attitude, there's no I, right? So it's just the observer, the conscious observer. Consciousness is sort of this being born into a body, with senses, but with no judgment and no I, no ego. And then, so there's this notion that consciousness, like at some point our brain gets smart enough, and we hear about this in artificial intelligence with computers. Eventually they get smart enough that they become conscious, they become self-aware, whatever. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's sort of this supposition that nothing else is conscious. Remember, we used to say that, but they would say animals are not conscious. No, but of course, animals we know are conscious. We know they're intelligent. We know, there was a point where we're the only people, the humans were the only, the top of the food chain kind of thing, which is fine. I think we're doing pretty good. And obviously we have an incredible system that has evolved as our body. And, but consciousness, God, I saw a video. You can go check on YouTube. They have all these videos. Just Google like white blood cells attacking a virus or attacking a cancer cell or something like that. And it's awesome. I mean, they hunt these intruder cells down and kill them with incredible consciousness, right? And if you, through meditative practices or just observation, if you observe other forms of both, what we consider brain life or non-brain life, plants, they sort of all exhibit some sense of conscious action in terms of how they operate. Now, the scientists will say, well, no, that's just their programming, and so it appears to be conscious, but they're not really conscious. And what the heck does that mean? It's like you appear pretty conscious, but you're not. Sorry. So I think that it's fair to say that if you appear conscious, that you probably could be conscious. So whatever that means, I guess. And the point is that this notion of that the mind is the evolution of consciousness, mind meaning ego, because that's sort of how we perceive it, right? That is what becomes our notion of consciousness. And what I would say, what I think consciousness is something that is sort of the underlying fabric of the entire universe, this notion of awareness, and that we, as well as all other living things, are expressions of that awareness. And some philosophers would say it's like a feedback mechanism to the whole system. And it sort of ties in this idea that there's this universal fabric, and there's definitely a sense of connectedness, and that we define ourselves within the context of our physical space, but it's not really true. We're quite porous, and energetically we're very porous, and we're expansive, and so I would say that from my perspective, it makes a lot more sense to think about consciousness as this underlying fabric, and that things evolve from that consciousness. There's too many similar patterns, the way cells combine and build around each other in certain mathematical ways that would lead one to believe that there's a fabric. Like, it's sort of like saying there's a wave, right? And the wave, we know the wave goes on the water, right? It's like a water wave, right? There's an energy that creates this wave, and then the wave perpetuates. And we know light is in waves, and the waves, well, in outer space, I'm not sure what it waves on. That's sort of an interesting question. I'm sure there's an answer by some physicists, which I'm not. So there's this underlying construct of which waves exist on. And I would say, like, consciousness is an underlying construct on which living things exist, come out of. And that's really all I got. I mean, it's such a great topic to discuss. It's more of a fun thing to discuss with a whole bunch of other people. I should probably have a Zoom call or something and talk about it with experts in different fields and everything. But comment on it, and let me know what you think. And why do we care about consciousness? I think the biggest thing is that it's in the context of, a lot of times, we live our lives through our ego selves, right? So through the roles that we play, and many times we forget that the underlying conscious observer, or which one could call your truest self, is not those things, is not those parts that you play out in the world, the interactions you have with the world, and to some degree, those things are considered. Those interactions are what creates the sort of scars and layers of blurriness that clouds your vision, your truth, and are sort of your karmic scars, so to speak. And part of the meditative process in the Buddhist tradition also is just to free yourselves from that, to peel that onion, to remove those sort of scars of interactions, to release all of that stuff, so you can get back to a connectivity to this universal conscious fabric, and be in bliss and peace and harmony forever. So, not a bad path, if you ask me. So I wish you a great journey, and have an awesome day. Subscribe to my channel, like the video, share it with your friends, and be patient with yourself, be patient with your practice, and enjoy. I'll talk to you soon.